But let me go back just a tad bit. I was such a clown when I was little. Everybody always thought that I should be a comedian. I was very good at mimicking people. So I was always, if I could see somebody walk for the first time, that their walk was different or their mannerisms were interesting, I could mimic them all the way down to the T.
Interesting.
I got in real serious trouble one time with my grandmother because I was mimicking our minister. And that didn't go over well. She heard me in there mimicking our minister that one day, and I had the kids just cracking up. But it sounded just like him. I mean, and when she walked in the room, I heard later my mother said it cracked her up too, but she couldn't laugh until she left the room. But that was after I got a spanking.
I was like, girl,
Yeah,
I don't know how you
that was
got away
not
with
a-
that in church, because I had an aunt would
Yeah.
pinch the skin off you if you even like look like you wanted to do something
Yeah,
out of the ordinary. You know what I'm saying?
right. That was not allowed. But everybody kept saying, oh, you really need to pursue some kind of career where you're on stage because you just seem like you're meant to be there.
Okay.
But I really don't think at that time I was quite sure I was. I was just being me.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't really having aspirations necessarily to do it.
So how were your grades through your school?
Very good.
Very good.
Oh, yeah. I told you, C's weren't acceptable. I got a couple, but I was on punishment till I brought it up to a B or an A. Yeah, my father was he didn't play. He was a steel worker, and, you know, he said, you know, this is the best I can do because of my limited education.
Wow.
And I'm not going to have my children have to deal with that kind of thing. I'm going to give you the best. And they did. They tried to expose us to everything that was out there. I mean, we went to museums, we went to the zoo, I mean, baseball games. I mean, every avenue, everything. My mother, even like I said with my mother, you know, unfortunately, they couldn't afford dance classes and those kind of things, but everything that they could get us involved in through the school.
Yeah.
And at that time, the school did a lot of different things, so we were very much involved.
Your mother, was she a stay-at-home mom, or she had to work also?
She was a stay-at-home mom
That was
until,
fortunate.
I think probably until I was about the 8th grade.
So how was she as a disciplinarian? Did she put her foot on your neck, or was it an army boot camp? What was it like?
They both believe that spare the rod, spoil the child philosophy, if that tells you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had their different techniques.
Ooh.
Yeah, and they didn't hesitate to use them. So I even told her one time, I said, I think, Mom, you know, that may have been considered child abuse, but then, you know, it was just little things that we weren't bad children because we weren't raised up to be bad. We just got into little things, but if I tell you no, I mean no.
Yeah.
You know, I see kids sometimes smarting off to their parents, and when I had my children, I have 2 children, a son and a daughter, and you know, even when you look at what's happening today, raising your child is not much different than raising your children years ago.
Yes.
You know, because if you raise them with the same intentions, you know, for them to have pride in themselves, to have a good work ethic, to care about what they want to do, and to be allowed to dream. And we were allowed to do all those things. And my children, I didn't have problems out of them either because they realized my mother had this look. And I know a lot of people can relate
That
to
mother look. Oh, yeah.
a look.
Stop you in your tracks.
And my father just had to breathe heavy.
Well, I had that same kind of experience. You know, I could get stuff past my mother. I can, you know, Mama, you can't catch me just yet, so, you know, I can outrun you. But it came to a point when she said, you were too much for me. I'm going to let your father handle it. And then I say, oh, no, please don't let him handle it. You know, it was over with. And so, you know, that kind of kept me in line, so.
Well, you know, too, I think it's also, when they talk about a village raising a child.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
At that time, and I think if we had that kind of thing now, you would get, if you were seen doing something wrong 2 blocks away from your house, you'd get chastised by that person that saw you. They would call your mother, tell you they were sending you home, sometimes they'd go with you, and then you knew you were going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you had those kind of things, it was like out for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, now parents, if you tell a child that they're something about their behavior, they're ready to fight. And I still don't understand that because
You hear that, parents? Bring back the village, because you do not know what your child is doing when they're away from the house. So you sometimes got to have to trust in other people, what they tell you too, because, you know, as you see 13-year-olds, 11-year-olds, you know, mass murderers, or, you know, it's crazy how it's just got out of control.
I think it's respect,
Yeah.
because we were taught.
That's true.
My father would always say, you don't have to like what I say or what I do, but you're going to respect me.
Yeah, that's true.
And I find myself saying that even on my job. I don't care if you don't like me or you don't care for the way that I do things,
Yeah.
but I'm going to respect what you do, and I'm going to respect you as a human being. You know, and that's the only thing I ask for in return. You know, everything else beyond that, it's wonderful. It's good to have when you start to develop beyond that, relationships, friendships, those kind of things. But outside of that, I think that's what the biggest problem is respect not only for other people, but respect for yourself, because it has to start here.
Yeah. Well, I used to visit with a gentleman, and he told me a story one day about he wanted to show how much of a man he was in his father's household. He said he was 17 at the time, and he said he did something, and his father wheeled around, and he said, my father went towards the room where he knew he stored the. And I was like, okay, I'm interested now. He said when he turned towards that room, he said he took off running. He said it was 17. He said, I didn't see my father again until I was 35. And he said, I had to call to ask him, was it okay to come visit? You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
when you say respect, that's how it was.
Yes.
I mean, come on, you living here, you gonna put your 2 cents in, you're gonna help around the house. You know, I think back in the day when we talking about cell phones. Man, 10 o'clock, you better not be nowhere near a phone, and no state to call you. Is like you getting it because of that.
Well, you were lucky to say 10 o'clock.
Oh, well, yeah.
Well, I remember when they said don't let the street light catch you
See?
anywhere but on the porch.
What happened to that? What happened to that?
Well, that's the unfortunate thing, is that we've lost that, and it's you know, but it's not forgotten. I mean, it's not forgotten because there's still people who remember that, and there's still a lot of people striving to help children that need the help, you know, and so we all have to keep doing it, you know. But I just think that we had simple things in life, you know. Now there's so many gadgets and, like you say, cell phones, games, and all that kind of stuff. We learned how to play with we could take nothing. I can remember playing jacks.
Oh, man, wait a minute. I got a Hot Wheel track, and the track was all the way down the street, okay, for hours. I mean, now I think parents have replaced that kind of attention with, like, as you said, gadgets, like you know, the games and, you know, TV and a computer. It cannot replace a one-on-one conversation with your kid. Like, you can't do this. Let's go here and heighten your awareness in that. You know, you know, we need to get back to that.
Well, I think too, or engaging in other possibilities, making more money, and wanting wanting our children to have what we saw other children having. So some of it is our responsibility, because it wasn't always necessarily the children that wanted. It was sometimes our desire because of the things that maybe we did not have.
Okay.
You know, so we kind of get caught up in saying, I want my kids to have this, I want my children to have that, and it's not necessarily the desire of the child. So I think sometimes we as parents have to listen to our children more to see what their desires are. I had a conversation with my mother, when I started singing,
Yes.
professionally. And I said, didn't you ever really encourage me to do that? And she said, you never really said you did.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I just naturally assumed that it was not going to be something that was acceptable simply because of their vision
Yeah.
for my life.
Yeah. Speaking of more money, we got the high school thing. What did you do after high school? Did you go to college?
No, I didn't go to college. I actually, at that time, some of the larger companies in the area, they would, it was like scouting.
Yeah.
They would come to the high schools and they would look for the best students, and they would actually hire you.
Yeah.
And I was one of those students that got hired into a company, and consequently, I stayed there.
We shall return in a moment. We're going to hear Mina sing, so stay tuned.